How far are you willing to go to save the ones you love? Would you risk pain and severe injury? Would you push through stressful situations and agonizing fear? How long would it take for the voice of self-preservation to convince you that your loved one is not worth it? What if the person you love is awful, disgusting, and psychotic? What if the danger they are in is 100% their fault and purely a reckoning for their sins? As someone with a parent who has done morally dubious things, I can understand why love may persist even though you see the fault in their actions. Love is illogical in that way. Love is instinctive, primal, not something that can be easily reasoned with. But still, I ask you, how far is too far? If your parent was the progenitor of unspeakable pain and suffering, would your love persist and thus seek to save them? Hello again, people. Tonight I will tell you the story of Mad Father, a grotesque tale of love, sacrifice, and vengeance. Mad Father is a survival horror RPG created by Sen, a Japanese developer also responsible for making another game called Misao. Puzzles will be your main obstacle for progress here, but won't prove too difficult. Mad Father was originally released in 2012, sporting simpler graphics, but later remastered for the Nintendo Switch and Steam. This game is one of the most explicit horror games I have ever played, so be warned. It does not shy away from portraying the suffering of people, especially children. The subject matter of this game is not for the faint of heart. This game was recommended by a viewer on the Nighthawk Discord server. If you have recommendations for other games I should cover in the future, or just want to share your thoughts on things you're passionate about, then stop on by and share your recommendations. They could lead to a future video. Our protagonist for the evening will be the sweet and innocent Aya Drevis. Aya is the only living child of a man named Alfred Drevis, scientist and doctor. She has recently lost her mother, Monica Drevis, to illness. So she spends most of her time alone with her pet rabbit. The Drevis family could easily be mistaken for an unassuming widowed family, but Aya's father has a secret. The story of Mad Father takes place in a remote mansion located in northern Germany. Every night, Dr. Drevis conducts his experiments in secret. His test subjects consist of people and animals of varying ages, alive or dead. It is no concern of Dr. Drevis as long as he gets results. Being the uncaring psychopath that he is, he identifies new test subjects on his days away from home. Then he proceeds to lure them back to his mansion under the guise of being invited into his family. Aya is already vaguely aware of these experiments. She is adolescent, but pure of heart. She loves her father, and by every metric, her father appears to love her as well. The relationship between Alfred and Aya is warm, only tarnished by the occasional patriarchal protectiveness. Aya has been raised in a protective environment, no hard decisions or fear of the future, a virtually perfect life. However, this life is a farce, a fictional story that she has been allowed to live in. But on this night, she will receive a rude awakening. Aya awakens within her room, disturbed by the distant screams of her father. Fearful, she rises from her cradle and seeks out the source of the suffering. Some say that the first minutes of a character's introduction are the most pertinent for the audience's understanding of that character. Mad Father is no exception. In the first moments of knowing Aya, she is understood to be a thoughtful, compassionate individual, not yet burdened by the realities of the world, mostly because thus far she has been allowed to ignore them. Aya proceeds down the hall leading from her room and is stunned to hear a raking cackle just further on. Several handprints, red with vengeance, disperse across the wall in front of her, preceding the horrors she will face on this night. Before her spawn two marionettes, eager to inflict harm on the nearest individual remotely related to Dr. Drebus. It is only when the rushed screams of an unfamiliar voice does Aya act and sprint to safety. Here she meets a boy of fair skin, seemingly normal until he turns, revealing a missing eye. Fleeing from both parties, she takes Recluse back inside her room, hoping for safety, only to find a less disheveled guest. This is the man with red eyes, or Ogre, as he calls himself, a businessman looking to make a sale. However, he doesn't seek to trouble Aya with that, as he willingly gives Aya important information she will need to get a grasp of her current predicament. Ogre explains the situation. As it stands presently, this house is cursed. The vengeful spirits of those who were killed by Aya's father have now been resurrected, ready to enact revenge on the man who subjected them to such inhumane experiments. Aya instinctively decides to rush to her father's aid, which Ogre is taken aback. He explains that this is fair. Her father is the cause of pain and suffering to countless spirits which now roam this mansion, looking for justice. He is the reason they are here, and it is by his morally reprehensible actions that he now must pay. Aya is faced with this perfectly reasonable thought and is unable to accept it. She leaves the room, treating the idea of facing the truth of her father with equal fear to that of the horrors she faced not 2 minutes ago. The mysterious nature of the red-eyed man will be revisited, but for now, let us see just how haunted this mansion has become. Down the stairs, right before the entrance to her father's lab, lies a statue of a man holding a spear, pointing towards the doorway to said lab. This statue may look generic, but it bears a striking resemblance to the statue of Longinus. The spear and Saint Longinus himself are both important symbols for Roman Catholicism. The spear which he wields is also called the Holy Lance. As the story goes, Jesus of Nazareth was crucified and then punctured. The blood which dripped down onto the spear ended up in Longinus's eye, fixing his eyesight. This allowed him to see the truth, and as a result, acknowledged Jesus as the Son of God. The difference here is that the statue is holding the lance aside and pointing towards where Aya's father currently is. Longinus was blind, unable to see the true nature of Jesus, until blood soaked his eyes. Later, before you enter the lab and learn the truth, blood soaks the statue and words are written upon the floor, Dein Vater Mörder, which roughly translates to, Your Father Murder. The spirits within this mansion are trying to show Aya the truth of her father. This imagery really accomplishes in showing that not all of the spirits here are spiteful towards Aya. Some of the spirits just want to hurt her, claim revenge in any way they can, while others truly want justice for what the doctor did. They do not want more suffering. Some of them just want the truth to be known, so that justice can be carried out. Entering this room for the first time, we'll have a doll appear before Aya. As we continue to explore this place, we will see more and more dolls, all created by Aya's father. Aya explains how lifelike the dolls appear to be, stating that they look like real people. This realism is only enhanced by their cursed state. Spirits have taken control of these dolls, using them as avatars for their anger. Some may jump out and strike Aya, others more mischievous than malicious. The big question would be, why are all of these dolls here in the first place? Why would a scientist have any interest in dolls, and so many dolls at that? Why would a scientist create so many dolls that he then lines up in a room with a throne to look down at them all? Dolls are often labeled as creepy material because of the realism and inanimate nature of them, which I agree with. But the seemingly random fixation of dolls could tell us a lot about Aya's father. We don't know for sure until we dig deeper. Traveling down further will bring you to a pile of dolls, lucid as they have also been possessed by spirits, yet still inanimate, forming a pile that blocks Aya's path. Aya has to find a way to remove this barrier, and fire appears to be the prevailing answer. You now must go on a scavenger hunt around the upper areas of the mansion, until you finally collect the necessary items to make a torch. As you explore, you meet more and more victims. Some of them are maimed beyond recognition, only seeking peace wherever they can find it. When Aya finally finds all of the items necessary to create a torch, she uses it to burn the pile of dolls blocking the path. While the shrieks of the haunted dolls are disturbing, they pale in comparison to the horrors we find below. Last chance to tap out. I gave a disclaimer in the intro, but it's only going to get worse from here. Aya enters the lab, and immediately to her left, she finds large jars filled with the preserved remains of infantile test subjects. You would normally see this type of preservation in a live sample museum or research facility for animals. Most people don't know this, don't ask how I know this, but the actual process of decomposing doesn't happen by itself. The actual breaking down of organic material happens using bacteria and other microscopic organisms. A way to stop this from happening is to place the body in question into a chemical called formaldehyde. This doesn't completely stop something from decomposing, but it will kill any bacteria it comes into contact with, thus slowing the decomposing process. I am explaining all of this morbid knowledge to you because this was put here for a reason. It shows that not only does the doctor perceive these people in the same vein as animals, but also seeks to preserve these specific subjects because he deemed them interesting. This room may be creepy, but it is not creepy for creepy's sake, rather a grim representation of the heartless monster we are dealing with. She continues further in to find Maria lying unconscious. Blood litters the room and the skirt which Maria wears. Maria begins to speak of Mrs. Drevis, and how she is responsible for this destruction. Naturally, this confuses Aya, unable to grasp both the illogical incident of her mother's return, as well as the pure denial of her mother committing such an act. The man with red eyes returns, appearing just beyond Aya almost impossibly. He goads Aya, encouraging her to continue on. Whether or not Aya believes in Maria's words is irrelevant. She cannot deny that her father and potentially her mother are further on. Further on they were, as Aya can see them both with crystal clarity as she moves into the next room. She is so startled to find her mother dragging the body of her father, she does not even notice the fact that there is a massive stab wound in her mother's chest. Her mother is now also here, affected by the curse. Of all the puppets that seek revenge, it appears the one who will obtain it will be his late wife. But why? Aside from the grim circumstances of his work, Dr. Drevis appears to have cared for his family. So far, we have been led to believe that Dr. Drevis may have been a vile, psychotic man, but a good father. His work is revolting and vile, but this was never news to his wife. While this is not a virtuous choice to marry this man, it was a choice that she made, which then led her to choose to have a baby with him, no less. Perhaps it was all a ploy. Maybe the doctor always intended to kill her, only using her for the prospect of receiving an heir to his legacy. We must dig deeper. Later, we have the ability to explore Maria's room. Previously locked, it contains a very personal ledger of past events. Maria was a potential test subject like any other. For whatever reason, she was put into a room with another test subject who was at the brink of death. Maria understood this and almost instinctively treated his wounds, using her own clothes as a bandage. This selfless act only intrigued the doctor, but his intrigue comes from Maria's natural intuition when it comes to medicine. So, the doctor made a deal with her that day. Instead of joining the mounds of bodies the doctor had piled up, she could instead serve as his assistant. Maria didn't really have a choice in the matter, it was serve or die, but she didn't see it that way. This, in her eyes, was an act of kindness. The typical routine for the doctor would involve him finding a homeless person, usually lying in the street, malnourished, and unable to help themselves. The doctor would identify this weakness and exploit it, just like any predator would. Most of the time, the person in question would just believe him. It doesn't matter how too good to be true it is. If a chance to escape absolute poverty and disillusion is presented, you would most likely take it. It takes a special kind of evil to be someone's sliver of hope in disguise. Maria wasn't just skilled, she was loyal, a perfect asset that the doctor would use, and use her he would. Aya will continue to meet more and more of her father's victims. She will be shown the atrocities firsthand rather than being told. Words from a vengeful spirit may be ignored due to bias, but the pure visions and feelings of such events cannot. The most notable of them all is in fact the boy with a missing eye that Aya met earlier. Aya's mother had employed this spirit specifically to protect Aya on this night, and I must say, he could have done a better job. But regardless, this is Robin, another soul that was brought to this mansion with a promise of a better life. Where Robin differs from the others is his seemingly one-sided relationship with Aya when he was still alive. Another tactic used by Dr. Drevis to entice people to stay at the mansion longer is to give them a purpose. Robin's purpose was to watch over Aya, be a bigger sibling, look after her and keep her safe. Once again, taking advantage of a person's better nature. The conversation between Robin and Aya is cut short. Literally, as Maria enters the chamber, she throws several scalpels into the boy's chest. Maria doesn't care for the boy's tale or his suffering. She is loyal to one man and one man only. Maria continues further down into the depths of the mansion, leaving Aya and the boy. Right before Aya enters the final room, she is stopped by a passive doll, Aya's favorite doll, the one made specifically for her by her father. The doll pleads with Aya to finally acknowledge the truth of her father's crimes, but unfortunately, the words of her mother are still present in Aya's mind. In the past, Monica made Aya promise that no matter what, she would support her father in everything. Her resolve is steel, even though her logic is flawed. She believes that her love can save both her parents and bring an end to the suffering, so she will continue with no intentions of hurting him. The doll scoffs, stating that people do not change that easily. Aya finds herself in a room, more technical than gothic. A black mass of energy wakes, somehow lighting the room. The red-eyed man walks out to explain to Aya what this is. This is a portal to the other world, a place where her mother has taken Dr. Drevis to enact her revenge. Aya cannot take her things with her. All she can take with her is her heart. Within Otherworld, we find ourselves at the game's climactic conclusion, or at least one of them. You see, this game has different endings depending on what you choose, which, to be blunt, I don't really agree with the reasoning behind one of the endings, but we will get to that in just a moment. Monica Drevis states that her daughter should not have come here. There is nothing but disdain for her husband that drives her now. As expected, this does not deter Aya in the slightest. It's a real pity how lack of change we see in Aya up until this point. No matter how many times she has been showed, no matter how large and damning the evidence is, she still trusts her father. This fixation could be the result of many things. Her ignorance, her youth, her love, her fear of being alone, but that doesn't make her choice any less dangerous. She has convinced herself that this is all an act of petty jealousy. Prior to her death, Monica became aware of an affair between Alfred and Maria. Maria was younger, more docile, and more useful to him. She would never want to compete with that level of delusion. Aya now has two choices. Well, technically there's three, but for now you have two. Allow her mother to kill her father, which honestly is the just thing to do, or stop her with the water given to her by the man with red eyes. I have to be blunt. I am not a fan of the ending where you let Monica win. I have nothing against Monica winning. I think that Alfred Drevis is a vile wretch that deserves several eternities of suffering as penance. I specifically don't like what happens shortly after. If you let Monica take her husband, then his body is placed inside an Iron Maiden, while Maria, his assistant, is spared. Aya briefly mourns her father's death, while extending an olive branch to Maria, allowing her to stay inside the mansion. Maria proceeds to knock Aya unconscious and then kills her, carrying on Alfred's work. While this turn of events makes sense given everything we know about Maria, subjectively speaking, I absolutely despise when a character does the morally correct thing and is punished for it. It really sucks. Moving on to the better ending, if you use the water to stop Aya's mother, she is vanquished, and thus the curse is lifted from the mansion. Aya hugs her father, who is seemingly unfazed by this entire ordeal. In one final act of protection, Monica uses her remaining strength to show Aya one final vision. A vision just like all of the others that were shown to her tonight. During a set of experiments, Maria and Alfred share a conversation which Monica overhears. Alfred is the one who made these dolls. He made all of them using the remains of his test subjects. He wants to control life, preserve natural beauty, and display it like dolls in a case. He uses these random people not to further his understanding of medicine or the human body, but to make the most true-to-life recreations of people he possibly can. And all of these dolls, all of his previous works, are just practice for his magnum opus, his greatest and most realistic doll, a perfect preservation of his daughter, Aya. Alfred is planning to make a doll from Aya's corpse. Monica naturally will not allow this, so she confronts Alfred directly. The confrontation ends when Alfred drives a blade into Monica's chest. His wife, the woman who stood aside while he ruined the lives of so many people. At the end of it all, was merely a tool he would use to get what he wanted. Aya is heartbroken, there is no denying it now. The same woman who convinced her that there was good in her father's heart just exposed him for the mad father he truly was. A chase ensues. Aya does not want to be a doll, but her father is not prepared to take her life willingly. One of the dolls, still animate, barricades the door to shield Aya until her father breaks in with a full-sized chainsaw. Aya hides herself away, posing as one of the bodies lying on a table. Here, she overhears a conversation between Maria and Alfred. Maria is unable to tell the doctor where Aya has run off to, and this absolutely displeases him. Maria is more than willing to help the mad father capture and kill his daughter, but he is too enraged to be patient with anyone. So he lashes out. Just like with his wife, just like with Aya and all the rest, he treated Maria like a tool to be used, and she has outlived her usefulness. When Aya wakes, she has the opportunity to save Maria, carrying her to the exit. If you leave Maria to die, then Alfred will eventually catch you, and you will die. But if you save her, show compassion, she will see the error of her ways. She will save you, killing the doctor herself. Robin explains that if this place was ever found, someone could continue Dr. Drevis's work. So this place must be destroyed. The mansion burns, lighting up the night, filling the air with smoke. Aya then finds a book lying on the ground, the very same she noticed earlier within the inner sanctum of the mansion. It is an anatomy book, the very same which her father used for reference when learning about the human body. It is implied that when Aya grows up and becomes a doctor herself, she shares a resemblance to her father. She has also taken an interest in medicine and the preservation of human life. Aya has also amassed a small collection of dolls, presumably one she has made herself. Aya and Maria now live together. They offer their medical services to people who need it, free of charge. And so ends the story of Aya Drevis, at least for now. But what of her mad father? Well, just as the mansion was burning down, the man with red eyes came to him and decided to make him an offer he couldn't refuse. Ogre offers to save the man's life in exchange for working under him, and in return, he can build all of the dolls he wants. Who was Ogre? There is a book on Aya's shelf which tells the story of someone named Jack, who meets a man that can give him the power to curse other people. Jack employed this man to put a curse on his enemies so he could enact revenge against them. The book is titled The Red-Eyed Stranger. Thank you all so much for watching. Good night.